just jump right in. Okay, so the overview of my 2021 business, hopefully you guys had some time to fill this out. If you didn't, it's not that big of a deal. But with the conversation that I had with my coach, the biggest thing she said to do top three, for those of you that are doing a larger volume, it would probably make sense to do your top 5 or even your top 10 realtors so that you can really see what your conversion rates look like so that you understand what kind of value and energy you're pouring into those agents. Because you might have an agent that's giving you 20 or 30 leads, but you're only closing 1 or 2 of them. So you want to know that piece. And you also want to know how many loans is that person actually closing and how many am I getting, and having that conversation. So that's kind of what the purpose of that piece is supposed to be. And then that will help you kind of just like reevaluate how you're categorizing your realtors. Because if you've been consistent with making sure you've got your platinum agents and your gold and silver and however you have it set up, that's something that you should reevaluate. In my conversations with the Ninja agents, her agents and her lenders reevaluate how those agents are categorized on a quarterly basis. So at minimum, I'd say at least once per year or even twice per year, because there's going to be times where you've got agents who maybe they develop another relationship with another lender, one of their buddies gets into the business, or they just get out. So I've had that experience. One of my agents that I used to do a lot of business with, she just decided she didn't want to be in real estate anymore. And so she got completely out of it. She still refers me her friends and stuff because people know that she still has connections, but that's not somebody I'm getting a ton of business from anymore. And I also need to shift what my marketing is to her because I didn't know that she'd gotten out because she didn't tell me right away. And so I was still sending her all of this real estate related stuff. And I was basically just wasting time and energy and money. So that's something to be paying attention to. And then just looking at from your overall conversion ratios, just knowing what those are. She had said that the pre-qual to application ratio, 60 to 80% is the norm across the board. And then the application to closing, you want to be above 70%. So knowing what those numbers
our application to closing numbers have always been pretty high here. If you look at, and I don't know, Jacqueline, I'll just jump in.
That's fine.
On the, for those of you on Salesforce, there's a dashboard called JV Branch Manager Sales Dashboard. And at the bottom of that dashboard, there's 3 boxes. There's 3 buckets. One's prospects without credit versus closed. I'm not even sure how that's being counted, but prospects with credit pulled versus closed won. This looks like a 49.9, 50% of our credit pulls turn into closed deals. And that's, I'm not sure how long that goes back, but when you just pull it up for yourself, you'll be able to see that because you guys can click on data that I can't click on, which I find annoying. And then the application to close number is down there as well. Our application to close ratios, because of what we call an application, I don't know, they could be calling it something else, but for us, an application is when somebody commits and locks. And we're closing 87% of those loans, and it's just the fallout that we get on the property. Most of the time, it's just property fallout, or the odd customer that double apps us. So very odd, but that's it. So that's where that information resides if you want to see it. And then just to back up, Jacqueline didn't pull up the business planning worksheet, but when we're done with this, I'm going to be reaching out to everybody individually and scheduling a time with you the last couple of weeks of December where we're going to be looking. I'm going to get with you and I want to see this paperwork. There's going to be some forms that I'm absolutely going to want to see from you. So that Zenith business planning worksheet is absolutely going to be one of those. So going through and identifying last year's goals versus where are you at, and paying really close attention to that and seeing where you want this all to be. Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
No problem. So then this next section underneath, when you review these numbers, where do you want to grow in 2022? So this is going to be specific to you guys, but the recommendations that she had was connection, communication, providing value and information, and follow-up touches. So making sure that you have all of those types of items in mind when you're setting up your business plan and when we start talking about flow, which is how you're going to set up all of those follow-up sequences for you for the next 12 months with all of your real estate partners.
You still
And then,
you haven't advanced the page yet.
no, this is right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then what habits do you want to create to make that happen? Same thing. So this should be specific to you guys and kind of what you're looking for. Some of the examples I used for myself was to set up follow-ups with clients or with agents, thank you notes, and phone calls. So again, this can just be whatever is specific to you in your business plan and how you want to design out that model, but that's kind of what we're looking for in these categories. And so then if we go into the next section, the discretionary investments, where did I invest my money? So this is going to be things like any gifting, closing gifts, social media marketing, post-closing gifts, coaching, any events that you're doing. And just looking at, okay, what did I invest in 2021? And was there a return on it? Do I find value in it? Should I continue to do it? Because you should be evaluating those on a regular basis as well. If you're doing some kind of a marketing plan and maybe it's not, it turns out you don't like it, or it costs too much money, or whatever the case may be, you want to be paying attention to that so you don't continue to do something that you don't feel creates value. So your agents probably aren't either. Do you have any questions on any of this stuff so far, guys?
Well, and that's the other thing on that. When it comes to that stuff, I want to know from my agents, do you find value in this? Right? I mean, do you find value if you're spending money on something and they don't find any value in it? There's two things that you want to stay top of mind, of course. So making sure that you're staying in front of agents is one thing, but if you're spending money, that's something that you got to be really careful of in this business. Chris and I, a few years back, I didn't realize he was doing it. He was doing some co-marketing with a real estate agent. And then when he shared with me what was going on, we did the math, we analyzed the math. That's what we're talking about here, is like really analyzing what's going on, paying really close attention to a return on your, an ROI on what you're doing. And so knowing for sure those numbers, when it comes to the number of leads, you got a realtor sending you 20 leads, you're closing one loan, you're doing a lot of work for one closing. And that can be a real estate agent. You got to get either, they got to change the way they're doing business, or you got to find a new agent. Let somebody else be their telemarketer.
Hey, Jackie, can I ask you something? Or Jacqueline, I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question real quick? I always do that. I'm so sorry. Okay.
That's the first time I've heard you do it. So yeah, I was like, as soon as you said it, I went, oh shit.
I know. I remember that from our trip to San Diego. Like, don't call me this. Okay. So how do you count the total closings of realtor partners? Because what I have found recently, because I've been going back through ROI and realtor partners and such, that one app that I showed you guys in San Diego is not picking up everything. Where are you verifying those numbers? Curious.
I'm just going off of that MMI website.
Yeah, here's a place where I think one of my partners, I've been working with it for 10 years, looked and it showed like he only had 20 closings. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm doing 15 of those. Wonderful. But I'm like, something's wrong here. They're growing their team. They have more people. And I went to HomeSnap, and HomeSnap, something I usually use just to verify, cell numbers, email addresses that are real, because the contracts always have like the group or the office number. HomeSnap always gives me their cell number. So even listing agents, an offer goes out, I just get their name, go to HomeSnap, open it up. But for each agent, it'll show for the last 24 months, they've done, 40 closings. You click on it and it opens up every single house they've closed by twos. And I'll just count them back and look at the dates of the closing, 2, 4, 6, 8. My friends, they've actually done about 49 closings. And I'm like, crap, who are you working with, right? So that let me know that there was a blind spot for me. So I started going back through and counting them out through HomeSnap. And to me, that's a much more reliable number. For some reason, it's not picking up all their information. So,
well, if you could share the link after the call, Curtis, I'd love to see that. So
yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So next page, I'm not going to get too much into this because this is part of your guys' life plan, but this is definitely something that you want to be factoring in. And she talks about what you focus on expands. So you want to just kind of pinpoint a couple of areas that you want to have your list of reasons for living, because this is going to play into this next page we're going to look at as far as the annual financial goals. But just making sure that you're kind of thinking about this stuff so that you have part of your why behind why you're doing all of these other things. One of the recommendations she did too is for those of you that have families is putting together like a family bucket list. So things you can do throughout the year with your family. So that way you're taking those breaks and taking that time to kind of recharge with all of the other stuff that you're doing. So you guys should have a pretty good handle on this from the life plan stuff. So I'm not going to get too much into this unless anybody has questions. Cool. So the annual financial reviews. So this is kind of like big picture, dream big, like what do you want these numbers to be? So this is all going to kind of just gear down to what kind of income do we want to make in 2022. So the mind to keep, what do you want left over at the end of all of this? This is just your fun money at the end of the year. So we want to look at this from an annual perspective, just a 1 year snapshot. So this is just your savings, your emergency fund, whatever you want to call it, but this is just yours to keep. Recreation is going to be any like fun activities that you're doing. So if you're going camping and you need to fund that kind of a trip, if you want to buy an RV to go camping on your trip, or if you've got some kind of sport that you're involved in and things like that. Personal growth is going to be just anything that you want to do on the personal side of your development. So whether that's like a retreat that you want to go on, or some kind of family planning stuff that you're wanting to do and things of that nature. Family growth, this is kind of
Real quick on the personal growth, you know, Darren Hardy, common teaching that he got from Brian Tracy is you invest 10% of your income in your personal growth every year. And he's talked about how, you know, the first time he made 250 grand, he had to spend $25,000. And then when he made $1 million, he had to spend $100,000. And it's expensive, but it comes back to you. The investments that you can make in yourself are far more valuable than the investments that you can make in the stock market or anything else that you would be investing in. So just keep that in mind when it comes to that personal growth stuff. That should be something that you're paying very close attention to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Family growth, same kind of thing. So this is talking about just like if you have any kind of an expansion in your family and just making sure you're able to afford that. Business growth, this comes to, so it kind of plays into the personal growth as far as the business development, personal coaches and things like that you're doing, but also anything that you're needing to invest in to help your business grow. So whether that be social media, if you're going to hire on an assistant and things like that. Debt reduction, this you want to take a look at what is your total debt, and you want to put that number there. So this isn't going to include student loans, credit cards, and those kinds of things. So don't take in any house debt because we know that's good debt unless you want to pay off your house this year, and cars unless you don't lease them. So we want to make sure that you're taking into consideration getting yourself to a point where you're debt free. So it's just one less thing for you to worry about, especially when that's something that we're coaching our clients on all the time, is making sure they're managing that debt. Creature comforts. So this is that take your whatever your monthly living expenses, multiply that by 12. That's the number that should be here. So this is housing, this is electricity, food, those kinds of things is going to come in here. Business costs. So this is going to be things that a lot of us don't have just because of the nature of how Zenith is set up. But this is like if you're renting space for your office, but any of your other like memberships as part of your business, if you're part of any of those groups like the Smedra and that kind of stuff, if you've got like annual dues and things like that. Retirement funds, this is funds specifically that are going into retirement accounts. So if you're just maxing out your retirement accounts each year, that's where those numbers are going to be. If you've got additional funds that you're putting into other retirement accounts, you want to include those there as well. The amount to give, so these are going to be your donations, your charitable donations. So you want to know whatever that number is, look at what you've donated in the past, and then whatever amount you want that to be into the future. And then investments is going to be anything outside of your retirement account. So if you're investing in stocks, mutual funds, things like that, that's where those funds are going to be coming from. So you want to total all of that up. That's what's going to go into your subtotal. And then you take your tax bracket and multiply that. Most of us are on our W-2, so you probably don't need to factor in the taxes since those are already coming out, and then your receiving total. Actually, you probably do want to factor that in. Yeah, Dave?
Yeah, you
The
still want
taxes?
to do it because it's your gross income. It's going to be your gross
Okay.
income minus the
Okay.
taxes. So
So take whatever your tax bracket is and include that number in there, and then that should give you a receiving total. And it should be a big, scary number that probably feels a little bit uncomfortable, but we want that number in there. You want to dream big here, because if you can't, you don't want to say, I only want to make 200 grand or 100 grand or whatever it is, and then maybe set a ceiling a little bit too low for yourself. Set it a little bit too high so that you can at least find ways to get there. Because if your brain's not focusing on that bigger number, you're not ever going to get there if you're always just shortchanging yourself and your abilities. Any questions on this page?
the only thing I would add on the debt reduction, that should absolutely be like in this business. After a year in this business, maybe a year and a half, two at the most, you should not have any freaking consumer debt left over. You just shouldn't. We can make excellent money in this business. And if you're carrying, and if you want any help with that, I've helped tons of people who work here build a debt reduction snowball spreadsheet, and magically everything goes away in no time. What I find is that most people freak out about knowing how much they owe and they don't want to know. And so they're like, well, I don't know how much I owe. And I'm like, why not? It's like, because I don't want to know. They all say the same things, like, well, because I don't want to know. And then as soon as they put it down on paper, they're like, okay, I can see it now. And it's a real number that I can do something about. And that would apply to everything on this list. So it just, money is always kind of an uncomfortable subject for people to talk about. And you're in the mortgage business, you should get really comfortable with it. So anybody that has, please don't hesitate to not let me know if that's an area that you want to talk about, because I'm passionate about it, and you should be very well, this should be a part of your life that's very balanced and very centered. So just keep that in mind.
And on that note, I've done the debt reduction thing a handful of times, and I've gone and pulled my bank statements and looked at what I've spent over the last 90 days. So if anybody needs help with something like that, I'm happy to be a resource too, and kind of walk you through what I tell my clients when we're looking at debt reduction for them to get them to a point where they can move forward. So reach out if you need questions, if you have questions there. Okay, so the profile of a Ninja's business. So 33% are repeat and database clients. 33% are referrals from database and friends. And 33% are referrals during the loan process. So this is all a third, a third, a third. So the point here is just kind of keeping track of, we need to be nurturing that database, even when we're not actively working with any of those clients. This next section, the 5 keys to maximize your referrals. This is build relationships, fabled service. So really great world-class service, which is what we do. Make them look good. So making your agents and your referral partners look great for referring them over. Consistency. And then your thank yous and your follow-ups.
Pretty basic stuff, huh?
Yeah. This next section, the relationship mindset. Referrals are built on relationships. Relationships are built on flow, which we'll talk about what flow is. Flow is the lifeline of your business. And your best flow is your database.
You want to maybe just dive into the description of flow real quick so that people know what.
Yeah, so flow, and it's, I think we included it in here, but flow is just basically, what are you setting up over the next 12 months so that you're staying in front of your clients and your referral partners? So in January, are you sending anything out, whether that's a value add piece to your real estate agents? Are you sending out some kind of like it's the beginning of the year, so you maybe want to talk to your all of your clients who closed last year about getting things ready, what documents to look for your taxes and that kind of thing. And then what are you doing every single month? What are you setting up? What is going to be automated going forward for all of those things to do. So that way you're not, okay, it's February, what should I do now? So you want to make sure that you're constantly in flow with your clients, because if you think about it, when you're in a transaction with your client for a refinance or a purchase, from the second that you lock them in all the way through closing, and then maybe 2 or 3 months after, you're constantly in flow with them because you're constantly updating them. Here's where we're at in the process. Here's your lock. Here's how the loan's set up. Here's your loan application. Your file's out of underwriting. Here are your conditions. Here's your appraisal. Okay, here's your final numbers. Here's closing. Everything looks great. Hey, do you need anything post-closing? So you're constantly in flow. So the idea here is and you don't need to be that kind of flow with them after the fact, because that's annoying, but you want to stay in touch with them. So what kind of a flow are you creating for both your real estate partners and your clients going forward, so that you're still that top of mind? Because we're constantly talking about every person that you know knows at least 4 people who are likely to move in the next 12 months. So you want to make sure that you're the only person that they think of when they meet that person. And the best way to do that is during the transaction, because it's top of mind for them. But then how do you stay top of mind after the loan closes? And that's going to be your flow. And there's some examples of that in the back of this packet if you guys haven't looked forward. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
Cool. So this next section, for those of you who aren't familiar with Ninja, this is just the Ninja 9. So this is the 5 daily habits and the 4 weekly habits to try to stay in flow with your clients. So this first one, the My Gratitudes and Affirmations, it's writing down what are you grateful for every single day. The recommendation in the book, I believe, was writing down 3 things that you're grateful for, but just taking this a step further and just maybe writing down 1 thing that you're grateful for every single day. And then your daily affirmations, this can be, I think it's, you write it down 30 times, 25 times every day for 30 days. And it's something like, I enjoy closing 10 loans per month. And you write it down 25 times and you do that every single day for 30 days. And then you change it. You can keep that going. You can change the numbers throughout. I have a couple of journals that I've done this. I did it in 2019 and most of 2020, where I was writing that down constantly and I just never stopped. And it's that whole thing's like what you focus on expands. So if you're constantly writing it and you're constantly putting it into your brain, your subconscious or your conscious, can't remember if it's your conscious or your subconscious, but it can't take a joke. So if you're constantly telling it's like, no, I enjoy earning $250,000 per year, eventually your brain and your habits are going to find ways to create that for you.
Couple of things on this. Use the word receiving instead of earning. Earning sounds like work. Receiving sounds like something you get because of work you've done, and it's in return for service that you've rendered. And then I've shared with people before that I started doing this. So I took the Ninja class the year before we launched Zenith, and the income number that I put down that they have you declare, the income number that I put down, I exceeded it. And then I was like, shit, I should have a bigger number. And then I've done that 2 more times where I'm like, fuck, I'm doing more than this. I need to like increase this. So this stuff works. Chris and Giuseppe have both shared their history when they first got in the business of, what you focus on expands, and the energy that where your focus goes, your energy flows. They would drive to work yelling, what a great loan, I'm a great loan officer, right? And this stuff really is important. And if you haven't, everybody, I have copies of Ninja selling all over the place here. I don't know if I have any extra ones laying around, but I'll let you use mine. And if you want to understand what that is, or I can demonstrate for you how powerful your mind really is. So don't discount what we're talking about here as far as your mindset is concerned, because it's such a big part of what you're trying to accomplish. So
I have a couple extra copies of Ninja, so if anybody wants that, let me know.
Okay.
So show up for work, time block my day, week, and stay on my agenda. So this is making sure that you're the one who is in control of your schedule. So if you're not already, I do recommend setting up your day the night before. That's something I've been doing since the beginning of my career when I was in processing. And I use, it's called the TMSOB, which I can share a copy with. I like things written out. I function better that way. So this is what I use every single day. And I just
literally prints this out at the end of every day, and she handwrites on here what is going to happen the next day. That starting your day you know exactly what you're going to do the following day at the end of your business day. That's such a critical thing. We're big on, calendaring, and the habits that you need to develop to be excellent at this business are basic talents that any professional that's earning the income that you could earn in this business is all we're talking. That's all we're talking about. That show up for work, time block my day, week, stay on my agenda in the book. And if you ever do the ninja installation, which I would recommend to anybody here, because it just ties in so much with the things that we teach, not exactly, but plenty of them. And Larry Kendall, who's the owner of the company, the group, which is the guy who wrote Ninja Selling, and he just talks about it as like the best performers are when he shows up at the office, their cars are already in the parking lot at 8 or 8:30 or at the latest 9 o'clock. So if you're not starting your day, I mean, if you're starting your day at 9:30, 10, 10:30, 11 in this business, you're just not working that hard, and your results will reflect that. Everybody that works really hard and that performs at a high level puts in a full 50-hour week, easy, if not 60. But the returns are phenomenal, right? Like, so, I mean, this takes work. This takes an investment of time and energy. And if you don't have something to do, let me know, because I will definitely give you the work that you need to be focused on if you want to build the kind of business that you're capable of building this business. But if you're not putting in that time, nothing's going to happen. It's that simple. So sorry, go ahead. I just love that when he talked about it. The first time I heard it, I was like going, that's so true, because I know what time of day the best performers are starting their work, and I know how much time they put in every day. Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
So write 2 personal notes. So this is thank you notes. This is happy birthday cards. This is whatever you want it to be. These can be to real estate agents. These can be to clients. These can be to your coworkers. These can be to family and friends, whatever it is. All this is doing is just expressing some gratitude and putting that gratitude out into the atmosphere. What I'd recommend doing here is have those 2 cards that you're planning to send out, set them on your desk before you leave for the day, and have that be one of the first things that you do, because then you get it done and then it's on your way. I have gotten into the habit of writing thank you notes to all of my clients that I send out at Thanksgiving. So I'm writing them out throughout the year, so that way I'm not overloaded with thank you cards. And then a huge stack of them goes out to all of my real estate agents and all of my clients in November. So that's something that you can start working on. Or those birthday cards are a really great way. I've been started sending out live birthday cards to all of my clients. It got me a lead, in the one lead that I'm working on right now. I've got 2, she sent me 2 leads that I'm meeting with this afternoon. So those kinds of things, it's that top of mind, it's that flow, it's staying in front of your clients, making sure they know that you appreciate them, that you're not just reaching out to them for real estate needs, that you're looking at their whole person and their whole family, their whole picture. Focus on my hot list and focus on my warm list. So these are lists that you should be looking at every single day, especially for those of you that are newer in the business. Who is on your hot list? Who's out shopping, making sure all of their stuff's up to date, ready to go. Your warm list, who's coming up in the pipeline, because it's that whole thing that everything that you're doing now is going to influence your business in 90 days. So if you don't have any deals closing this month, what were you doing 90 days ago? And was there something going on in your pipeline that was preventing you from getting some prospecting done? Or were you just not really hitting the pavement as hard as you normally do? And that's what's going on. You can always predict that behavior based on your actions. The 4 weekly habit, it's your client service calls. So that's going to be updating pre-approved clients. It's going to be updating live files and just kind of checking in with your people and kind of what's going on. 2 live mortgage reviews per week. So this could be pre-approval sits. This could be refinance reviews. Or annual mortgage reviews once you guys start doing those. 50 live interviews per week. So this is going to seem like an overwhelming number, but this is all of your live conversations with clients and referral partners. Anything that you're having conversations with around work, kind of what's going on with them and things like that. So 50 live interviews per week. This is going to start generating leads for you, because again, you're top of mind, you're putting yourself in flow with your clients and your referral partners. And then updating my database and looking for property matches. So this is just kind of goes back to the reviewing, like who on your real estate list, like reevaluating what categories those agents are in, looking at who are your referral partners that aren't realtors. So your financial planners, your CPAs, your lawyers, all of that stuff. Who are those people? And then clients that you have that you know are going to be selling, what's their property look like? And does that a property match for some other client in your database? That's a really good thing to keep an eye on, or even tell your realtors, hey, if you've got anything coming up, this is kind of what I'm looking for some of my clients right now. And then that way you can kind of, maybe you can help to facilitate a deal, or at least create the atmosphere where your agents are like, hey, I've got this listing, here it is. And then that way they know you can push it out to all of us and we can see if we've got a buyer need for it, and things like that. And then forward is flow. So we have a couple of questions in here. Okay. Those are all for me. Okay, so next piece is your client update calls and habit number 6. So habit number 6 refers to your 5 daily and 4 weekly habits. So the benefits of these is more phone calls equals more referrals. Only 2% of lenders are calling their clients. So if you want to set yourself apart from everybody else, pick up the phone. Reduce interruptions. So this reduces the client interrupting you in the middle of your day if you're already preempting that call. And again, each homeowner knows 4 or more people who are going to move this year. Your best referral source is your active database and active clients. They're already in the process, so they're already in flow with you. And again, they know 4 people who are going to move. So
This
that
ties in a little bit with what we were talking about yesterday, in that, you know, the client that you're doing business with now that's where all the business opportunities lie, because they have to listen to us for 4 to 6 weeks. They have to read every message. They have to take every call. They have to listen to every voicemail. They have to listen to everything. They have to watch every video. So that's such an important part of, and what we're just talking about is giving you guys ideas here. The idea behind this business plan is, what are you doing now and what could you be doing to increase the opportunities that are coming your way during a transaction, and for 2022 business planning purposes, right? So what could you be doing that could increase that? So go ahead, Jack, sorry.
So the referral carousel, this just refers to where you can be getting your leads and where all of that stuff is happening, where all of these conversations could be happening. Your 5-step calling process to keep these, because when she talks about the 50 live interviews, it's like, okay, well, how am I supposed to do that? Some of my clients want to talk for 30 minutes and that kind of thing. So her recommendation is just to follow this 5-step calling process, which is salutation. Have I reached you? Is this an okay time? Talk about forward. Have you find a common ground? 3 is purpose of my call is to give you this update, to tell you what's going on, to find out what you need. Forward again, find that common ground, and to thank you for your time. We're on our way. So you can control that call because you're the one making the phone call. Be like, hey, I only want to take up a couple minutes of your time. So that's how you can do those quick live interviews. And then it's got a quick little thing in here for your referral follow-up. This is how you can follow up with clients or with your referral partners that are referring you business. So if you aren't sending a thank you note or doing some kind of a follow-up call, this is a really good step-by-step so that they know what's going on in the transaction, especially for those of you that are getting referrals from people outside of your realtor database. It's easy to update them, but you may not be updating friends or family that are referring you clients or even past clients. So that's a good way to do that too. So this is again from your life plan. So I'm not going to focus too much on here, but this is just taking that magic wand. And if you could change absolutely anything about your business, what would it be? This is a really good question to ask your real estate agents too, when you're having those one-on-one meetings and finding out what they would change about their business and see if there's a way for you to find a solution and help them find a solution there.
Well, and there's a clue right there, guys. Talking to the people that you're already getting business from, referral partners, and finding out from them, what are you doing for business planning for 2022? Maybe let's get together and share let's share together, right? There's this great opportunity because people don't do this very well. The good ones do, but the ones who are trying to be good don't know to do this. Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's one of the things that I do with all of my realtors from like November into January is I just try to schedule a face-to-face meeting with all of my real estate partners and find out, okay, how was last year? What's our plan for 2022 and how can I help? So that's a really good opportunity to have those meetings. When it comes down to your personal mission statement, what I'm working to accomplish in my life, you want to look at what's most important to you and how do you want to act and what kind of a person do you want to be in order to accomplish those things. What will your business plan look like in 2022? So this is just talking about how are you going to expand your relationships? What kind of habits are you going to put in place to make that happen? Are you going to put them on some kind of a referral follow-up? If you're going to have some kind of a class, if you're going to set up those meetings? How are you going to leverage or deepen your current relationships? So just look at the relationships that you already do have, whether it's with clients or with real estate partners, and find out how can you make those more beneficial, create more value so that you're not service level. Same thing with your clients. What are you going to do to further those relationships with your clients? Because if you can find ways to tap into your client spheres, that's going to create all kinds of referral and repeat business that you can then help refer back to the agents that originally referred you to that client, which is a great way, because I'm sure, especially the newer guys, it's like, oh, I want you to refer me 2 or 3 leads per year. The reality is that's just, it's uncommon for us to have unattached buyer leads because clients know so many real estate partners. But if we can help develop leads with them or for them within the sphere of clients that they've already given us, then that just is that extra warm lead into another conversation.
This is a perfect tie-in to the referral partner success system that I've shared with everybody. And that whole, you becoming the center of the wheel of all the potential business, from a life insurance agent, a financial advisor, a tax attorney, a CPA, an estate attorney. Having those relationships is the perfect opportunity here for leveraging and deepening the relationships that you already have.
And then how are you going to set yourself apart from the competition, and what's your value edge? So this is just looking at how are you going to put yourself above everyone else? Is it going to be phone calls? Is it going to be some kind of post-closing marketing piece? Whatever the case is, you want to put that in here. Okay, and then a look at you. Again, this kind of goes back to your life plan. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. You just want to take a look at what are you wanting to do for yourself for 2022. And
this
then
is a great opportunity. Number 4, I plan to work an average of X hours per week. Last year I worked, be honest. I mean, if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, be honest about this, because this industry is famous for people lying to themselves about what they're really doing, how much effort they're really putting into it. And if you're not getting the results, it doesn't matter what the results are you're getting, be honest and take a look at what's my return on time. And it's so funny when people don't do this and they're like, yeah, no, I'm trying. It's like, I don't think you are. And so just be careful with that. Be honest. That's the best advice I can give you.
And then the bottom section, the vacations, trainings, retreats, life list, getaways, what will those be? So in a perfect world, you have something going on, whether it's personal or professional, every single month. So like perfect example, everybody can add in, and is January is the Renee Rodriguez event. So we know we've got January covered. So what are we doing in February? Are we going to do something for ourselves? Or are we going to do something to help develop the business plan? Okay, so the 2022 goals, you guys, if you had the opportunity to complete this in advance, awesome. But we're just comparing again our business from last year to our business of what we want it to be this year. And then in the habits goal implementation, we want to just pick one thing per month that we're going to implement. You don't want to try to do too much too fast because it's going to be harder to maintain. So just pick one thing that you're going to do each month through the year and that you're going to keep going. So that way, okay, here's how by the end of the year, you're going to be able to look back and be like, yep, I implemented all those things. And then here's what my business did as a result.
I believe Amy shared with everybody their numbers in the months when all of this stuff got closed. If any of you don't have that or you still need it, let me know.
So this, I'll let you guys read this on your own time, but this is just, these are the types of people who are looking to buy or sell real estate this year. So this is just a good thing to keep an eye on, especially if you're using social media. So looking at what your people on Facebook are updating and kind of different family changes and things in life that give you an opportunity to reach out to those people just to touch base. How's it going? Or help them make some decisions as far as real estate is concerned. Or if they say something about needing some kind of a financial planner or a wedding planner, or whatever the case may be, you can help be that resource for them for all things, not just real estate. And then the keep, start, stop. Again, this is something that if you had the opportunity to complete in advance, to just take a look at what are you doing. The keep is what are you doing that is benefiting the business and helping you to grow. what are some things that maybe you need to start doing in the new year? And what are some things that are actually eating away at your time that you need to stop doing? Good example on the stop thing is maybe if you're not turning over complete files, or you're missing some stuff, or you're not doing a really good job on the follow-up on the front end or on the back end, maybe that's something that you could put in here.
That keep, start, stop stuff is really powerful. So don't ignore that. That's something that everybody can benefit from having that as part of their plan for 2022.
So this next section, I really like this first part, the database, qualifying my database. So go in and look at your database and kind of look at, excuse me, who are your top referring clients, and categorizing them that way. And that way, when you start to implement your flow, which we'll kind of go into a little bit more here in a second, then you'll know, okay, who are the people who always refer me? Okay, I want them on my top list. And who are the people that sometimes they're going to refer me, but maybe not always, and those kinds of things. And that way you can categorize them the same way that you do your real estate partners and your other referral partners. I talked to the people at Salesforce, there's not a way to categorize them in the same way, but, and I'll send a screenshot of this, but there is a place that you can manually type in a marketing category for those clients. So that way you can categorize them and then draw a report off of it. So I'll send that snapshot to you guys afterwards. But this is a good way to kind of look at, okay, how am I going to reach out to my clients? Flow. So this just kind of, again, is just staying top of mind. You've got your live flow and your auto flow. So live flow, that's going to be your face-to-face conversations, voice-to-voice conversations, and those 50 live interviews per week. And then your auto flow is going to be anything that you're going to automate. So mailers, email updates, those kinds of things. This section down here, the best auto flow, it's valuable, it's customized, personalized, and it's a combination of art and science. So you want to look at not just doing the facts, not just doing here's what rates are doing, but also playing into some of the more artful side of things. And the Ninja book goes into more detail about why that works, but you want to play on both sides because not everybody functions in both capacity. And then the auto flow keeps you visible while you're busy or on vacation. So that way it's just, you're constantly top of mind without actually having to physically do things. And then these next couple of pages, these are just going to be some examples and some charts for you guys to fill in. So this is just an example of a yearly flow calendar. You don't necessarily need to do 3 things per month because that's quite a lot, but this is just to give you some examples of some of the things that some of the ninjas that my coach happens to coach and some of the stuff that they do. So quarterly newsletter, 2021 marketing update, Super Bowl parties, Easter egg hunts. There's ways for you to do some like client appreciation type things and that kind of stuff. There's a holiday in every single month. So you could always pinpoint some kind of holiday card or some kind of message that's going to go out every single month. You can play around the seasons as far as what's going on. So school starting, school getting out, family vacations, things like that, graduations.
Hey, Jennifer,
and then this
really
is
quick.
Sure.
When you're looking at like holiday cards and stuff, are you talking physical cards and mailing them, or would you apply the same general email cards that we send out for those holidays?
I think you could do a combination of both. I think if you picked 1 or 2 holidays, maybe just one, where you're physically sending out a card. So whether you're physically sending out a birthday card or physically, Christmas cards, Thanksgiving cards, whatever the case may be, I think having something tangible, just because people, if they're not already in flow with you constantly, or they're in the middle of the transaction, they may not be reading those emails. So you just,
the other thing is, maybe Casey customizing it based on the source that we're talking about, based on, so maybe you're not doing a physical card to the entire database and every realtor that you've ever met, but you've qualified, you've categorized those agents based on, or if you're talking about agents or referral partners, like, so who do you want to make sure gets a card physically versus who do you want to, it's okay, I want to make sure I touch everybody. So it isn't just, I don't know that it's a blanket ever. I think it's easy to get into that mode of I'm sending everybody the same thing. And I think that maybe that's wrong because you're not, you got much more, some clients are just more valuable than other clients. And that's a fact.
Yeah, I think it goes back to qualifying your database, and maybe you send a physical card to your advocates, but maybe everybody else gets a digital card for Christmas.
Yeah, and the reason I brought that up is just because, you know, you look at that chart and you're trying to plan those things out. It's like, all right, well, obviously we hit these people with emails, but what's the open rate on those, right? And if you're
Right.
sending out a physical card, if it's handwritten or hand addressed at least, everyone reads that.
Yep. Okay, and so these next 2 pages, these are just example calendars that you can go in and fill out on your own time. And then this is the 8x8. So this is something they go into really deep detail about it in the Ninja book, but the 8x8 is just identifying your real estate partners that you want to market to. She recommends picking 5 per week to start with.
This is to get into a relationship with a new rural partner that you're not currently doing business with.
Yeah. Or to reinvigorate a relationship that maybe has kind of died down. So you want to pick 8 things that you want to do. So you're going to do 1 thing per week. Week 7 and 8, we want that week 7 to be a live phone call to try to schedule a meeting in week 8. So those are number 7 and 8. The rest of the weeks can be anything. The one that I did, I sent out a thank you card, just thanking them for the business that I'd done with them in the past. They were former clients of mine, or they've worked on one side or the other of a deal. Then I sent them out an invitation to the real estate summit thing that we did with Dave Savage. Then I sent them out just a follow-up on kind of here's some of the highlights of what I liked. I sent them a kind of just an introduction to what I was going to be working on into the future. And then I also sent them out a book that I thought might be beneficial to them in their business. So you can do this however you want to. You don't have to look at this as like a really big spend. This is just kind of jump starting that relationship with them for an 8-week period so that you're consistently following up with them. And then hopefully by week 8, you've got that meeting and you know, okay, I'm going to work with this person. And now we have a game plan going forward. And so you want to identify, I made the mistake of just putting way too many people on that list. So it was a lot harder to keep up with. But if you just maybe you have 30 names that you want to go with, just do 5 a week and start them on this flow, because otherwise you're going to have 30 something meetings that you're trying to schedule in 1 week. Yeah, that doesn't work. And that's a lot of phone calls and on top of all the business that you're already doing. So figuring out a mindful way and an intentional way of doing this, and also finding what she also recommend doing is blocking out something in your calendar. As you know, okay, in week 8, that's going to be this when I start this, and just blocking out some time on Wednesday afternoons and Thursday mornings, for example. And so when you call to follow up with these agents, be like, hey, I've got some time next Wednesday at this time and on Thursday at this time. Do either of those work for you? And so that'll cover some of your live meetings too, because that's all going to count with the Ninja 9 as well. So that way you always have those things blocked off of when I need to be meeting with referral partners. And then on Sunday or whatever day you look at your week ahead, you can go, oh, I still don't have anything scheduled for those 2 days. So I need to get on and try to get a realtor meeting scheduled. So that way you're kind of keeping yourself accountable at the same time within your schedule. And you've already time blocked it. So you know you can't schedule anything over that. And you always have room for those meetings with your agents.
Jacqueline, where do you usually send things? Usually send it to their office address?
It depends on the agent. For the most part, I've reached out to most of my agents that I consistently work with and just figured out what their preferred mailing address is. That's usually a pretty easy question for most people to ask. Obviously not on somebody cold that you've never worked with before, but if it's somebody that you worked with in the past, I would just reach out to them and find out what their best mailing address is, because then they're always going to get it, because if they never go into the office, they're just gonna have a stack of stuff from you by the time they finally show up.
Okay, great, thanks.
This is just a sample week, but it talks about my perfect week. So I would recommend you guys kind of go through this and just practice this as an exercise, is just write out what you would want a perfect week to look like for you as far as meetings, how you're going to do your daily routines, how you're going to do your daily scheduling and time blocking, and just make sure you know what that looks like. It's not something you want to implement all of it at once. Just pick, okay, I want to do these 5 things every single week, and then pick the first one and implement it for a week or 2, and then add in the second one. Because if you try to implement too many things too fast, just like working out, if you try to go too hard, too fast at the beginning, it's going to be hard to maintain. But if you slowly kind of integrate yourself into all of those things, it's a lot easier to maintain. It's a lot easier to keep consistent, and it's a lot easier to make sure that you're going to keep doing it. And that's kind of the goal here, is just to keep up that consistency.
On this week schedule, I mean, you guys can build this. Obviously, everybody should know how to build something like this for themselves in Excel. Couple of things, be careful not to overdo it. If you try to shove too much shit into these calendars, it becomes really stressful and overwhelming and you're not going to do anything. But I would point out a couple of things on here, and you can see the morning on this, my perfect week schedule, the morning routine starts at 6 a.m. Giuseppe's a big fan of the book, and many people have read the book here, The Miracle Morning. Having a solid morning routine, a solid evening routine is critical for long-term success. You get an opportunity to, get some exercise in, meditation, journaling, all kinds of really important things can happen before anybody else can bother you. Darren Hardy talks about controlling the bookends of the day. I have an Excel spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet. It's just, I actually schedule my morning. I like what time I get up and when I'm going to sit down at my desk, and I do all of that stuff. I've just gotten very disciplined at that stuff, but starting here is the perfect place to start. So if you've never built out a calendar like this, as I mentioned in some of the business planning tips that I was sending out, if you're not scheduling, because right here it's got my Ninja daily routine is show up. That's the first thing. Second thing, work on my business in the morning, time blocking for the Ninja 9. So that's where you're time blocking to do your cards and to get, do your handwritten notes, to do the first 5 things in on that morning, going over your hot list, going over your warm list, working on your business. And then working in your business is when you're having your meetings and your appointments. I know that doesn't always play out when a client wants to have a conversation with you. But if you don't at least have a framework in mind for this, it becomes really, I'm sure that you've all felt the same thing that I felt a lot when I first got into business, is like going, man, there's so much to do. And how do I manage my time? It feels like I'm doing all these things. Take control, build a framework for how it is you want to work. And that's what this can be. So I highly recommend The Miracle Morning. Is a great book read to maybe develop your own morning routine. Also, some of the stuff in the Compound Effect from Darren Hardy talks about the same thing, controlling the bookends of your day. So go ahead, Jack.
And so then this last page, this is just a simple 1-sheet business plan. So however you guys decide to set up your business plan, I would recommend just having a really simplified version of this somewhere that you can see every single day, so that you're constantly looking at it. I recommend it would be something that you're reviewing, if not every single day, at least once per week, so that you're constantly focusing on that. So again, what you focus on expands. So just putting in here, I enjoy receiving whatever that income goal is for 2022. I enjoy closing whatever that loan number is, and then what your targeted units and volumes are. And then you can update this as we get through the year. And then any of the habits that you want to commit to, your income per hour, the life that you'll create, and those kinds of things. So this is just to simplify down what your plan is, so that you can easily look at it and refer to it at any point throughout the day or the year.
So thanks, Jack. So I'm going to be sending an email out to each one of you individually, scheduling a time to follow up. There's going to be about a half a dozen pages. If I go through it, there may be a little more than that, 7 or 8 pages of documents in here that I'm going to want to review with you individually. I want to know where you're at. I want to know what you're shooting for. And I want us to have, a buy-in to what it is we're trying to accomplish in 2022. Jacqueline was talking to one of her best referral partners, Jason Ellis, yesterday. And I think it was yesterday. She was talking about business planning, and she's like, God, when do you have time for this? And go ahead and share with everybody what he told you.
So he takes
He's a really good producer, and he's very disciplined in his approach. Mm-hmm. He's solid. Everybody would want him as a referral partner. Great guy, great relationships with his clients, just a solid dude. So he schedules once a year around this time, and he takes himself out to lunch. He blocks out 3 hours, and he likes to go down to Postino and just sits at a table by himself and works out his business plan. So he's basically taking himself out on a date and just goes through the whole business plan and gets everything all planned out. So if you don't schedule time for yourself to sit down and really work on the business plan, you're probably not ever going to do it. So get it in your calendar if you haven't already done it, and just block out that time where you're not going to have any interruptions. If you need to go offsite to do so, do it, because it's really important as you're developing. And even for the more seasoned guys on the phone, it's like to really just kind of reevaluate. As Dave's mentioned a couple of times, you can restart this business over and over a bunch if you're never planning. Yeah, you don't want to have the same year over and over. So, and then, you know, when you go to do that work, there's so much value. Same thing as the life plan. I mean, taking time to sit back and think about what it is you're trying to accomplish is super valuable. So getting a way to do it, go sitting on a rock. We make fun of it. It's like you go sit on a rock somewhere and there's a lot to be said for that. It's an opportunity to really contemplate where you're going, what you're doing, where you're at. Are you reaching the goals that you want to reach for yourself? Are you on the path that you need to be on in all areas of your life? And that's what this business plan is for as well. So I'm looking forward to getting with everybody on this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Jacqueline, I appreciate you taking the time to do this with everybody.